Welcome to Wealthy Mind, where we talk about all things finances, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the surprising. Welcome to Wealthy Mind. I am your host, International Success Coach, Misty Rose Gold, and we are always making sure to help business owners and entrepreneurs to create and maintain a wealthy mind. Today, I have with me David Fuller. Hello, David.
Hi, Misty. How are you?
I am good. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Hey, I'm super excited to have you on the show. We have lots to talk about. You have a very interesting business. I mean, interesting to me. I don't know how interesting it is to the audience, but we'll see. So
Well, thank you. I hope it is, or this
I
is going
hope
to be a
so.
flop.
I know, right? I hope so too. So I love learning about the fractional space. It's so interesting to me because it's an up and coming industry. And a lot of people from corporate are stepping out of corporate and into the fractional space. So, would you please tell the audience what is the name of your business and what do you do?
So the business is called Portco Revenue Advisors, and we work with CEOs of private equity companies and founders or owners of private businesses. And
Hmm.
we focused on generally their go-to-market teams. So it
Okay.
includes sales, customer success, service support, marketing, partnership if they sell through distribution channels, and enablement. And we help them get aligned and we help them increase their performance and scale in a profitable way. And some of the reasons they want us to partner with them is to accelerate their exit. It might be to get an investment or to sell the company in total
Okay.
and increase their valuation so they get a few more multiples
Hmm.
so that they generate short-term and long-term wealth.
All right. That's excellent. So, for the audience sake, David is a fractional CRO. What does that stand for?
Chief Revenue Officer.
And how is that different from a fractional CFO or CFO in general?
So Chief Financial Officer is all about the numbers. So they're working on EBITDA, and they
Hmm.
write bigger picture, more strategy on amortization and the growth and depreciation, all those sorts of things.
Margins.
Margins, yes. And Chief Revenue Officer is concerned about EBITDA for sure, but their
Hmm.
job is really generating the most revenue per their go-to-market team. So revenue per employee, whether it's sales, marketing, or whatever. Um, and then the advisory work that I do, so I do the fractional chief revenue officer, but we also do advisory work. And people will hire us to work with their go-to-market leaders of each
Hmm.
department and help them with strategy, growth strategy, 3 and 5 year growth plans, and
Okay.
be aligned so that there's communication between all departments. There's a good handoff in the customer engagement process.
Hmm.
And we help them put in systems, processes, and messaging that will resonate with their audience. So sometimes they aren't really sure what their audience is.
Okay.
So we identify the ideal client customer profile and the buyer personas and then create messaging around that.
Excellent. So you said one of my buzzwords, which is communication. If we do not communicate effectively, business is going to be more challenging than what it should be, in my opinion.
Yes, I think you're 100%. I think
Uh,
most of the problems that companies have can be solved by message and process. And message and process involve communication and alignment.
Mm,
So, yeah, I agree with you 100%, Misty.
yes, and that's internal communication as well as external.
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, most of the times, not that different departments are dysfunctional, but they have their own, they can be. Uh, they sometimes work in silos,
Mhm.
and there's unintended consequences for that because sometimes the department goals are in direct conflict with other departments and
Mm,
their goals. And so we try to get everybody aligned on the
mm,
company's big goal, so that everybody's rowing in the same direction. So we call that the North Star.
okay.
Everybody has a North Star, and how are you going to contribute to that North Star? I was talking to CEO, and he said, I want to go from 30 million to 50 million in ARR, and I want to do it in 3 years. And he said, the reason why is because I want to take on an investment so
Hmm.
that we can develop new products. It was a SaaS company, develop new products, new
Okay.
services, etc. And so I found that their departments weren't in alignment. And so we got the North Star was the big goal that the CEO
Hmm.
wanted
Hmm.
everybody to focus on. And then we developed plans for each of those departments to contribute to that big goal.
Mm, you are speaking my language all around. So you said North Star, and I wrote down goal in parentheses because I work with goals, right? Like
Right.
you call it the North Star, I call it goals, but we have to have that thing to aim for. And why is it that we're doing what we're doing? So it makes me think of a company that I worked with where there was four different people trying to pull a company in four different directions. And I'm like, we need one leader moving the company in one direction, so getting everybody in alignment. And it was all based on communication.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There's a company, I'm not trying to do a plug for another company, but there's this entrepreneur operating system, EOS. And I
Hmm.
think they do a really good job of getting people aligned at a high level. They're probably 50,000 feet. And then
Hmm.
just think of a jellyfish that has
Hmm.
those tentacles that connect to what we do at Portco Revenue Advisors. It's a real, very, very complementary. So we talk about rocks and initiatives and milestones and
Hmm.
measurements of success, owners, accountability, etc. And it all aligns with EOS. And I think EOS, I'm a big fan of EOS.
Yeah, definitely. There's a gentleman that I know that works within that system, and he works with all the teams and the management, but he doesn't work directly with the CEOs. So he's like, Misty, I need you in my pocket because you can work directly with the CEO, which I don't
Right,
do.
right.
Yeah.
That's a smart man.
Uh-huh.
It's a
Uh-huh.
smart man.
Very smart because if the company is going to reach its full potential, all areas need to be covered. So I always tell people when you're endeavoring to build an empire, you must have an army. You cannot do it by yourself, and you have to have the right army. So your army of advisors and specialists and experts and all the things. And the more
Right.
people are willing to do that, the higher they can go.
Right. And you said something that I resonates with me. So you talked about the internal, right? Like
Hmm.
communication internally. And I think in your business, probably you work inside out. You get the person whole, right? And work on them so that they can be better leaders externally, right? And no,
No, kind of. So I always start with the business goal. And then their leadership will naturally develop over time through that process. And their personal relationship with themselves will naturally develop more over time. Whatever we need to work on within the business that is people related will naturally develop over time. So that's the beautiful flow of my business. We always set the business goal, and then I can count on it like clockwork. Every single meeting, something else will come up that we need to address. And it doesn't always have to be a major challenge. It can be something positive that the person wants to work on. And that makes it so that everybody is really comfortable to work with me as well, because I'm not just going after their development as a leader. I'm not just going after the personal internal trash that we need to clean up. You know what I mean? Like it all comes out when it needs to. So it's a very beautiful process.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Hmm. Yeah. And fun and enjoyable. And people are like, oh, that's nice. I can do that. So we can work on business development one week and work on my head trash the next. I'm like, yep.
Right. Yeah, they aren't mutually exclusive, in my world.
That's right. Sometimes we have to work on both. So anyhow, now back to you. I wrote down some stuff that's really juicy that I want to dive into.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So go-to-market teams. Would you explain that? Define that for the audience, please.
Yeah, so go to market team. So I work with client facing, revenue generating, and that's usually what you would term as go to market. So how do you get customers? You have marketing that's going to, reach out. They'll have their own process, the awareness, educate, etc. To communicate, hopefully educate, and eventually somebody's going to raise their hand and say, hey, I want to talk to you more. And
Hmm.
then it goes to the sales team. It could be a sales development rep that's qualifying that opportunity or that
Hmm.
lead, making sure they fit within the ideal customer profile or ICP. There may be a business development rep that's also helping get leads through outbound conversations. But eventually it goes to the account executive or sales representative. And then from there, so that's the marketing and sales portion of the go-to-market team.
Hmm.
And then from there, um, when a seller actually partners with a company, then they hand it off to, usually if it's software, it's going to be, implementation. They'll have a
Hmm.
kickoff meeting, etc. So you'll have an implementation or services team, customer support team,
Hmm.
and customer success. And those three entities, sometimes companies have them one position. Others will, a larger firm will have three separate departments that handle retention, upsell, cross-sell, support, etc. And then they have partnerships. So sometimes companies will sell through resellers or channels. So I've got a product and we have
Hmm.
direct sales force, but we also sell through channels. It might be through distribution, et cetera, depending upon the business. So that's part of the go-to-market team. And then of course there's enablement. And really enablement is they are people that are going to develop with marketing and sales as partners or internal customers. They're going to develop curriculum, materials that the sellers would use or the customer success support service team would use in explaining what they do and how they do it. They're also very important on the onboarding, and they will work with HR to help with succession planning, coaching, learning and development, etc.
Mm.
So every company is a little bit different.
Sure. Yeah,
And
there.
they wear many, one person could wear many, many hats, but those are some of the departments and members of a go-to-market team.
Hmm. All right. Thank you for defining that for us. I appreciate it. So what companies do you prefer to work with? Product-based companies or service-based?
Either or, I like to work with companies that typically are under 100 million in revenue or ARR, annual recurring revenue.
Hmm.
I also, the industries typically software tech, and professional business services and construction and manufacturing. So those are typically the clients I like. And the more complex the sales cycle,
Hmm.
the sales process, and where it involves more of a consultative sale, that's where we tend to do our best work.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. So where were you before? What did you do before starting your fractional CRO business?
Well, this is the second time I've done this. So,
Ah.
yeah, years ago, I had an advisory consulting firm in Europe, in Ireland and England, and then came here for 2 years in Europe and 2 years here. And then I was an operator, but I've held many operator positions. So force management, great company. They are they are the developers and owners of Command of the Message, Command of the Sale,
Mm-hmm.
etc. Before that, I was a chief revenue officer for a prop tech company. And then before that, a another CRO role for another tech-enabled services company. That
Okay.
was photography. I've done kind of just about everything, Misty. I was an owner in 6 different companies, um, staffing, recruiting, software, and consulting firm. Had my own medical device company. So just a lot of different things.
So people can look at that in a lot of different ways, but I'm going to choose to look at it as that you have a massive education from trying different things and from being in different industries so that it makes you a well-rounded individual in your business.
Well, thank you. I think so too. And here's what, right. So what I think my background um, is unique because I've had three Fortune 500 companies I work for. Cintas Uniforms, Johnson& Johnson, a division of Johnson& Johnson called Ethicon Endosurgery, and then Parametric Technology Corporation. And then I've had a lot of experience owning my own business, of being an equity partner in others, working for private equity-backed companies. Um, but they were all in kind of different industries.
Mm-hmm.
And and I think that's an asset. And I think the clients I work with see that as an asset. And the reason why is because I take what's common in one industry, like
Mm-hmm.
let's say medical device,
Mm-hmm.
and I bring it to another industry, like a services business, right? And so I'm cross-pollinating those ideas. And so I come with a fresh approach uh,
Mm-hmm.
to solving problems and bringing something that's unique to that business that accelerates revenue. And I think if you're always in the same industry, sometimes you have blinders on what's possible.
Yes.
And so I think it's an advantage for most of the clients that I work for.
I am full support of that because I do not work with one specific industry myself. And there are commonalities within business and within people
Yes.
that repeat themselves no matter what the industry is. But I always have the fun experience of getting to know a person's industry from their perspective.
Mhm.
And it just makes everything that much sweeter moving on to the next business that I work with. Like, I absolutely love it. So, and people do get blinders, which is why they need outside advisors, not employees, outside advisors, because an employee is going to think differently than we do. And we're going to see things differently. We're not as emotionally attached to things, right?
Mhm.
So it's very, very, very helpful to have somebody with a well-rounded experience
Well, thank you.
and right? And
No, I agree.
to have you and the experience that you have, but also the ability to sweeten the pot for people
Mm.
because you're creative. And that was the word that stood out to me, creative solutions. So that's part of my tagline when I'm at like a networking event or something. I help businesses grow and thrive through creative solutions.
I like that a lot. I really like that a lot. I think, my experience, I was talking to, this was a private business owner, and he kept hiring people within the industry. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
But guess what? They're bringing their experience and the solutions that they had from their former company to their new company in the same industry.
Hmm.
So it's not surprising that a lot of these companies fail to differentiate themselves from each other.
Hmm.
And so I think when you cross-pollinate from a different industry, I come in and I'm showing them something that's actually unique
Hmm.
differentiator. It might be comparable or better, but a lot of times it's unique and it gives them a leg up on the competition. And those business owners and CEOs of PE-backed companies, when they get it, they get it.
Mm,
And really, I look like the hero, like I'm this super smart guy with this such creative, but it really isn't that. It's just I'm leveraging that experience and I can see things from different angles that people that are working in the business, as you say, right,
mhm.
they can't see the forest from the trees. They're just
Right.
used to doing it the same way. And then there's another factor. That other factor is fear,
The fear factor. Woo.
the fear factor, right?
Uh-huh.
So and we're going to go back to your word communication, right? Um, so I see two things that happen. One is employees are fearful of bringing up ideas because that is not welcomed by their management team or their owners, and
hmm
that's tough.
Yeah.
And then the communication is that from top down, they aren't communicating that they want these ideas and they're accepting it, they're humbling themselves to know that, to recognize that maybe there's other people out there that are in the trenches or that have other ideas that could benefit, that the company could benefit from.
hmm
And so it's those two things that I think are stopping companies from leveraging their internal intellectual property, which are their people, their ideas. And so sometimes I'll go, oftentimes actually, when I come out with an assessment or a plan, I'm working with the go-to-market team, they say, well, I had that idea 4 years ago, but nobody
Mm,
would listen to me.
mm,
And sometimes it takes an outside, objective, impartial person
hmm
to say, hey, I think you should, run with this or investigate this more or test this,
hmm
or the owner or the CEO to say, oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I love it. So what you're defining for me is a collaborative culture
Hmm.
massively instead of the competitive space. So I love the business owner and executive and entrepreneur ego, but I hate it at the same time
Right.
because the ego says I can do this all on my own. And if the leader in that case is willing to step outside of his or her ego and say, you know what? There's wisdom and knowledge all around me. Let me
Hmm.
see how I can tap into it. Let me get an outside perspective. So let's bring in a couple advisors that excel and have an expertise in certain areas. You can have five advisors if you want. You don't have to just have one. You can have five of us. We all have a different expertise. And then being able to tap into your employees and their collective knowledge and what they have. It's like then you're creating a really collaborative culture because they feel useful. They feel like their creativity can actually be heard. Even if you don't take the idea and run with it, it bridges the gap between the CEO, the C-suite, and the W-2 or the employee, the salary, whatever you guys want to call them. And I think that's really, really, really important. And if you're not creating a collaborative culture in this day and age, your business is not going to do so well. Just FYI.
Yes, because a lot of people, we are in a time in history where we have six different generations all in the same workforce.
Mm,
And so everybody has a different way of communicating and collaborating.
hmm
And so, I'm one of eight kids, big Catholic family.
Okay.
And my parents would treat us all, I mean, loving parents, but they followed the same discipline pattern for each kid and they would, develop each child the same way, right? I mean, it's you got eight kids, it's tough to individually, address each of their needs and discipline, have a different discipline plan, etc. But the fact of the matter is that what works for one kid doesn't work for another. And it's
Mm,
the same thing when we're talking about different generations and the different employees. You really have to understand that generation that you're speaking to, how
hmm.
they work. And, some generations want to talk on the phone, others want to DM you,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
Others don't care about punctuation and they love emojis, and others don't like that. Some generations just want to have security, financial security. Other generations are really more interested in the cause they are contributing to all of humanity.
Mm,
And they're all important.
hmm.
It's really the art, and I'm sure you probably help companies with this. The art is appealing to all of them and communicating holistically.
Yes.
So,
You definitely nailed that. So that's part of me
yeah,
being a people expert and teaching the CEO or business owner how to do the same. So one of my favorite books is The CEO Does Three Things. And in that book, it is clearly defined that if you don't understand people, you're not going to do your job well. So decision making is a huge part of the process for the leader, the business owner, the executive, the CEO, right? But their other job that should be just as important is focusing on the people and how do I communicate with these people? How do I make sure that it's effective? And how do I deal with my stuff so that I can grow in that ability? So a lot of, and this is part of my role too, is helping CEOs understand their role as a CEO. Like, truly, what does that mean? And
right.
if somebody is preparing for an exit, they have to make sure that they are in a true CEO position so that they can be removed from the company as the company sells. And I know that sounds kind of harsh, but it's the reality of what we deal with. So it's part of that process. So anybody listening that is a business owner, executive, entrepreneur, make sure that you are becoming a people expert. Please read that book.
Yeah, I've got to read
Please.
that book. I still make mistakes, even though I'm advising strategically with the CEO and their leaders and stuff. I still make mistakes. I mean, that's the other thing I think has been a thorn in the sides of leaders is, some of them don't like to make mistakes.
I know.
And so they feel like they have to have all the answers before they make a
Hmm.
decision. And one of my former leaders had told me a story about Colin Powell, and he said, "Look, all I need is 80% of the information so I can make a good business decision. And if it's wrong, we'll pivot.
Hmm.
If I wait for that last 20%, I'm never going to make a decision."
Correct.
And so I think it's not
But let's reframe that
yeah,
because they will make decisions, just not healthy decisions for the company.
sometimes. That's right. That's
So
right. I
if they're
mean,
if they procrastinate in the decision-making process, that's a decision itself.
it is.
So some of these decisions that are made, like I believe that everything we do throughout the day is based on a decision. I got up this morning because I decided to do so. I went to my meetings because I decided to do so. We are having this wonderful conversation because I decided and you decided to show up on Zoom. So
True, true.
they're always making decisions, but are they healthy for the company? That's
Right,
the key.
right. And yeah, a non-decision is a decision.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. So that's the leader's ego. I have to do it myself. It's all on me, right? Like, but as you learn to delegate and let go and not be as much of a control freak and learn to trust other people, not explicitly, right? Because we are imperfect, all of us. But learning to trust people's strengths, know their weaknesses, know your people. This is why it's so important to understand people. Sit down and talk with them, get to know them. What are their passions? What do they do outside of work? All those things. This is so important so that you understand, okay, this person has these strengths and weaknesses. Let me utilize their strengths. Here's their weakness. Let me go find this person to fill in the gap there. And you can strategically place every single person where you need to. And then you're utilizing them, creating this amazing collaborative culture. And it's a beautiful thing. Instead of carrying that burden all on yourself, there's no need.
Yeah, I find that that's with early stage companies that I work with, are founders, private companies. That is probably the biggest thing that's holding them back from scaling profitably.
Hmm.
It's they just can't relinquish their control, and
Hmm.
they micromanage and put so much weight, and really they're causing a lot of problems. And if they could just take a step back,
Yeah.
hire the right people, trust them, and just let them, and they're going to make mistakes too, but you're the
Uh-huh.
founders there to help them, but enable them, give them some autonomy. When I think founders are able to do that, they'll see their business rise much quicker than they ever imagined.
I agree with you. Definitely. So that brings it back to their personal development, right? Of letting go of fear, letting go of control issues, and learning to trust, but trusting with wisdom and learning what can I trust about different people and what do I not need to, and learning to trust their intuition. So every person who has done something great listens to their gut or their intuition. Just
Mhm.
FYI for those of you who haven't got that yet. Those of you who are doing it, awesome, keep going. Great. But you got to learn to trust your intuition, not your fear, not all those crazy voices that are whispering crazy things to you. Like, no, no, no. We got to get quiet to listen to that intuition and what is it really telling you? And sometimes it speaks to you right away, but then you're like, no, I don't want to listen to it because of X, Y, and Z. So if you're able to step into that space as well and trust your intuition, trust that deeper guidance that comes from this magical place inside of all of us. The more you use it, it's like a muscle. And the better you become at making decisions, the better you become at trusting the individual in front of you because you know where that line is drawn. You know how far you can trust them. You know how far you can't, right? So that intuition is a key player in becoming the people expert within your organization and being able to delegate successfully and let
Right.
go of control, let go of some of your fear.
Mhm. Well, I think if everybody's in alignment on that North Star,
Mm,
which most companies aren't, surprisingly.
correct.
Even 125, $200 million companies are still not aligned on that North Star.
Mm,
Um, it's easier to do that. And you can inspect what you expect by giving that control, but having things in place
hmm.
where you can monitor. But again, if you don't have everybody aligned with their rocks on that big goal,
Hmm.
then yeah, you're going to have to micromanagement because you don't know what the heck anybody's doing.
Mm,
But if you're thoughtful in those rocks and you understand the initiatives and the milestones and the measurement of success on a, EOS calls it an L10 meeting, but a weekly leadership meeting, then yeah, you're probably really lost and you want more control because you don't have the insights of how
hmm.
the business is going. So, um, yeah,
Yes.
I think that those are some important takeaways and for founders and CEOs of private equity backed or CEOs of publicly traded companies.
Mm, definitely. There's so much more that we could talk about, but we need to wrap up for today.
Sure.
So I'm like, we should probably do another one of these in the future because there is more for us to talk about. It's so beneficial for the leaders of these companies to hear what we have to say in this space. I mean, we're giving them the inside scoop of our expertise, which is what they need to help the company grow. Um, setting the right expectations, I think, can be our next conversation because
Mhm.
if you have your North Star identified, then you can set the appropriate expectations for everybody involved. Otherwise, it's just a shotgun approach and it doesn't work.
Right.
So, if you want to be like more fulfilled with everything that you're doing within your business or the organization, these are things that we need to look at. I want you all sleeping better at night. I want you all more filled with joy because you love getting up every morning and doing what you do. Because guess what? We've collectively eliminated the chaos.
Amen to that.
Yes. And that's part of our job. That's part of what I do. That's part of what you do. We eliminate the chaos. So, anyhow, until we get into our next interview. Thank you. I
Thank
so
you.
appreciate this conversation with you. And would you please provide the audience with one way to reach out to you? You can provide more in the description, but just one way.
Yeah, they can just email me
Cool.
at dfuller, that's Fuller, at Portco, P as in Paul, Ortco, Revenue Advisors, that's plural.com.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Any closing statements?
Well, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. Thank you for welcoming me into your channel. And I appreciate the conversation, the insights, and hopefully this will be valued insights for your audience.
I'm sure it will be.
Great.
Well, it's been great having you on. Thank you. And until next time, everyone, we will see you soon.
Thank you for tuning in to the Wealthy Mind podcast. Please be sure to download the Wealthy Mind app today and make sure to support your local Dress for Success.